Hi, welcome back to Structural Grammar. Today we will continue to talk about adverb clauses. As we keep saying, there are 9 types of adverb clauses. Each type has its own conjunctions, and each conjunction carries slight difference in the meaning or usage. In this video, we will look at some conjunctions used in the last 5 types of adverb clauses. First, adverb clause of result. An adverb clause of result or consequence is used to say what happens or what may happen as a result of the action mentioned in the main clause. The chief conjunctions used to introduce adverb clauses of result are so something that and such something that. We use so with an adjective or adverb. For example, the pudding was so delicious that we couldn't stop eating. We can also use such followed by an article a or an adjective, a noun plus that. In the second example, we changed the pudding was so delicious that to it was such a delicious pudding that. Second, adverb clause of reason. We use it to answer the question why. As because and since are conjunctions. They all introduce subordinate clauses. They connect the result of something with its reason. For example, the reason why Jane looked after the others is because she was the eldest. Because is more common than as and since, both in writing and speaking. When we use because, we are focusing on the reason. We use a comma after the because clause. We use because to give the reason of something that is important for the listener. For example, we like to emphasize the reason why Jane could pass the exam, which is she worked hard. Therefore, we use because as the conjunction. We often use as and since when we want to focus more on the result than the reason. With as and since, the reason should already be known by the listener. For example, we like to emphasize the situation that even during COVID-19 pandemic, we can still learn and study as usual. As and since are more formal than because. We often use as and since clauses at the beginning of the sentence, and we use a comma after the as or since clause. Third, adverb clause of place. Where is the conjunction we often use? For example, I've put the money where I can find it again. Where I can find it again is the adverb clause and it modifies the verb have put. Where can be used as a relative adverb. In this case, it refers back to a noun in the main clause. As a relative adverb, where introduced a relative clause. For example, I know a place where you can hide the treasure. I know a place is the main clause, and where you can hide the treasure is the relative clause which refers back to the noun place. Fourth, adverb clause of time. All these are conjunctions used to show when something happens. No future tense or form, or a conditional tense in the time clause. First, let's talk about when, as, and while. In some uses, they can mean the same, but they can also have slightly different meaning. When is used when one action follows another. That means the first action is completed before the second action occurs. For example, when I left the house, I remembered the key, means I remembered the key after I left the house. However, if I change the when to as, it means I remember the key before I left the house. As is used when the second action occurs before the first is finished. That means the first action is incomplete. While means during the time that, we use continuous tense for the while clause. For as soon as, we use it when we emphasize the first action was completely finished or just finished before the second one started. Let's take a look at the example. It means Peter wrote to me immediately after he heard the news. Pay attention to the conjunction since. It can be used in both adverb clause of time and adverb clause of reason. When since is used to talk about time, it means from a particular time in the past until a later time or until now. Note that the verb in the main clause of the sentence is usually in the present perfect or past perfect tense. When since is used to talk about reason, it means because. For instance, this example explains the reason why we can study at home even during COVID-19 pandemic. Fifth, adverb clause of comparison. Then indicates the standard against which the comparison is made. For example, Jack is taller than Betty. As something as is a positive equal comparison. We use as plus adjective or adverb plus as to make comparisons when the things we are comparing are equal in some way. So something as is a negative equal comparison. We use not plus so plus an adjective or adverb plus as to make comparisons when something or someone has less of a particular quality than another person or thing. Exercises. Task 1. Identify part of speech and clause functions. You have to underline the subject, mark the verb red and the conjunction green. You also need to identify the clauses and write the abbreviation next to the clauses. For example, question 1. I will always be sad because I will not see you anymore. Both I are the subjects. Will be and will not see are the verbs, and because is the conjunctions. Because I will not see you anymore is an adverb clause of reason, so write advc/reason next to it. Task 2. Choose the correct conjunction from the box below. Its conjunction can be used once only. For question 1. Last week, I twisted my ankle, something I was playing in the school playground. The answer is while. As you can see, continuous tense is used for one of the clauses, and it makes sense to put while here as it talks about the time when I twist my ankle. That's the end of today's lesson. Have a try at the rest of the exercises.